On SME On Point, I'm standing in for Liabo Setho this week. A social enterprise company, Stru Movement, and the Ndwandwe family have launched Tandoo in the business of making washable sanitary towels. The towel is said to be sustainable with a 3-year life cycle. Well, for more on this, I'm joined by Lebo Rapetswa. She's the founder of Stru Movement. Thank you very much, Lebo, for joining us. Washable sanitary towels, that's quite an ingenious and cost-effective idea. How did you come up with that idea, and how has it been taken by the market that you serve?
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me. Firstly, it's called Tandoo. The idea is to say you gotta love this. You know, you're a woman, you've gotta love this. How it works or how we came about it, it was sustainability. Our concern was with all the sanitary towel drives and conversations that we hear, then what? After I give you a packet of sanitary towels because you're already in need and you've lined up for this, then what? Can we not come up with something that can stay in your cupboard for longer, that it stops you or keeps you from going to ask again for seconds, basically? So that was the idea behind it, to say we have to come up with something that will keep this vulnerable person out of their view, out of sight, basically, to enable them to continue outside of the first giving, basically.
Okay, thank you for the correction, Tandoo. So where can your products be found, and how easy or otherwise has it been to market the product?
I won't say it's been easy per se. I think it's more of a new thing that nobody quite wants that. And I appreciated the conversation with another person that said, I remember my sisters had my grandmother helping them with towels or whatever we had at home just to keep them going. So there's no shame to it. There's no tabooness to it. Anything else looks fancy. And I think we all want to look fancy. And right now it's about really dignifying yourself, which is why the consideration and the approach to the Ndwandwe family about Pila. To say it is interesting that when she was found, they found her wearing a plastic bag. And how they explain it.
Sorry, Lebo, just elaborate on the lady that you're talking about.
Yes. Ndwandwe was an MK soldier many years ago and was taken with the hope to turn her into an askari, and she still refused. The then government decided to kill her, or managed to kill her successfully, because then through the TRC some truth started coming out. That's the explanation of the blue plastic bag that was found on her waist. They explained it as having been an effort on her side to dignify her female parts, basically. And we looked at that and we thought, dignify, that is such a key word, to say there's no shame to having your sanitary, your periods, basically. How do we then begin to preach this differently, teach them this differently, to say this is a moment of celebration. Every woman should love going through that and should have it in a very dignified manner. So learning from Pila herself to say this area is really worth dignifying. That's the idea that we ought to honor her. So the starting was we ought to honor people like Ndwandwe.
I hear you. So just tell us, what have been some of the challenges with this entrepreneurial enterprise that you've got into, and what's your advice to other entrepreneurs as they pursue, ensuring that their products or services are marketable?
Marketable, I think things like meeting the basic standards. Sense, for instance, SABC has come up with Sense to make sure that there's a standard to meet, basically. So part of it is knowing what gap you're trying to close. And once you have a solution to a challenge that you perceive, is to say then what compliance is necessary. Because firstly, we can't take advantage of those who are poor and those you're trying to really help. So do you have a standard? Do you have a measurable standard? And what about keeping their dignity, which is what got us started to start with? So the persistence was mostly on the research, on finding the right materials. At first it was, I suspect this will work, I suspect this will work. Then you test it and it actually works. So persistence and the belief in what you think is a solution, you even not think it, that this will solve so many problems. Then you persist on it, you push on it until you get the right products that will work. So every cloth was tested, and now we know for sure that this will definitely solve a problem.
Very ingenious idea. Thank you very much, Lebo, for your time. That was Lebo Rapetswa. She's the founder of Stru Movement.